Episode 1. Welcome to the woods. Most people think being a park ranger means guiding hikes, saving squirrels, and telling tourists not to feed the bears. But sometimes, you see something that looks back at you. My first post was in a remote section of the forest near a long, forgotten trail called Devil's Pass. No cell signal, no traffic, just trees, wind, and stories no one wanted to talk about. The ranger I replaced, Miller, disappeared, left a half-drunk cup of coffee on the porch, truck still parked outside, boots missing from the rack, gone. We searched for a week. Nothing. His cabin felt wrong from the moment I stepped inside. Not haunted, not exactly, but still, too still. Like the walls were listening. That first night, I barely slept. Wind howled through the trees like it had lungs. My radio crackled once, just a burst of static and then silence. At 2:44 a.m., I heard footsteps outside. Heavy, slow. I sat up in bed, heart hammering. The porch creaked, then a knock, 3 times. I waited, didn't move, didn't breathe. Then the door handle turned, clicked once, stopped, and I heard it. A voice, soft, familiar, Miller. Except, it sounded like me. I didn't open the door. When the sun came up, I checked the porch. Nothing there, except muddy prints leading from the edge of the forest right up to the door and back. Identical to my boots, identical in every way. I sent a report, got no response. That was day 1, and the forest hasn't stopped whispering since. Episode 2. The sound between trees. The next day, I hiked the Western Ridge Trail, the one that winds behind Miller's cabin and vanishes into thick, wild pine. I didn't plan to go far, just enough to clear my head. But the woods had other plans. The deeper I walked, the quieter it got. Birds stopped chirping. No wind, no rustle. Just this constant pressure, like something invisible watching from every angle. Then I heard it. Not footsteps. A low hum. Not mechanical. Organic. Like breath held too long. I froze. The hum grew louder. It moved not toward me, but through the trees, bending them, warping the air. And then I saw the figure. Just for a second. Tall, thin, unnaturally still. It stood between the pines, not quite touching the ground. Limbs too long, head tilted like it was listening to something I couldn't hear. Then gone. No sound, no motion, just absence. I turned around, walked fast, didn't run. When I got back to the cabin, I found something sitting on the porch. My hat, the one I lost 2 days ago, but it was damp, cold, and covered in pine needles. And inside it, folded neatly, was a single piece of paper. No handwriting, just a print, a handprint, but the fingers were too long, and there were 6 of them. That night, the radio came on again. Through static, I heard a voice strained, distant, almost human. Still here. I shut it off, but I didn't sleep. Episode 3. The missing voice. On my 3rd day, the forest went silent again. This time, it wasn't natural. I knew it now, the weight in the air, the subtle shift in light, the sense that everything around me was holding its breath. I went to check the old logging road. It hadn't been used in decades, but I saw prints, human, small, like a child's. They led deep into the woods, then vanished. Just like that one step here, the next step gone. Back at the station, I checked the old ranger logs. That's when I saw her name, Emily Ward. Missing, age 9. Disappeared near Miller's cabin. Last seen, 1996. The report was thin. 1 page. It ended with a note from Miller. She was calling for help, but it wasn't her voice anymore. I didn't know what that meant, not yet, until that night. At 3:11 a.m., I heard a knock 3 times, then silence, then a girl's voice. "I'm cold. Can I come in?" My heart sank. It was soft, weak, just like a scared kid. I didn't move. Then I heard her again. "I'm cold. Can I come in?" Same tone, same words, exactly like a recording, playing on repeat. I grabbed my flashlight, opened the door fast. Nothing there, just the wind. But when I stepped outside, I saw the footprints, bare feet, small, leading from the trees to my cabin and then vanishing into the dirt. That night, I played an old Ranger radio log I'd found in the archive, and I heard it, buried in the static, that same girl's voice from 27 years ago. "I'm cold. Can I come in?" Episode 4. What watches below? I couldn't shake the girl's voice. It echoed in my head all morning, bouncing between my ribs like a trapped echo. I needed answers, and Miller's cabin was the only place left that might hold them. The structure hadn't changed, still dusty, still half, packed like he'd left in a hurry, but the smell was different now. Damp earth, decay. I checked the basement. It was locked. I found the key in a coffee can above the sink. Old trick Rangers used for emergency access. The padlock creaked as it opened. The door groaned like something alive when I pulled it. The stairs were steep, the kind that creak louder with every breath you take. I flicked on the light. It worked. Mostly. The bulb overhead buzzed and pulsed, barely keeping the shadows at bay. The room was small. Concrete floor, a broken table, 2 chairs, and carved into the far wall, words, deep, jagged letters scratched by something not quite human. "She is not alone." Beneath it, dozens of tick marks like someone counting the days or the nights. I stepped closer, then the bulb popped. Total darkness. And in that darkness, something moved. Slow, dragging, a breath, wet and gurgling. I backed up the stairs, tripping on the 5th step, slammed the door, locked it, whatever was down there. It hadn't stayed behind when Miller vanished. That night, I heard scratching from below my own floorboards. Not mice, not wood shifting, something with fingers and nails. Episode 5. Echoes in the static. I tried to forget the scratching sounds, tried to sleep, pretended it was just the wind or maybe a raccoon under the floorboards. But denial is fragile, and the forest doesn't let you lie to yourself for long. The next day, I hiked out toward the river bend. I needed space, air, something normal, except I found something else. A radio, half buried in moss, wires exposed, antenna bent. It was still on, still humming. When I picked it up, I heard my voice, clear as day. "This is Ranger." Then silence. Then again, looped. "This is Ranger," over and over. I hadn't said those words today or yesterday, but it was my voice. I brought it back to the cabin and pried it open. Inside the casing, something was jammed between the circuits. A tooth. Human. Too small to be an adult. I dropped it. That night, I played the radio again. Let it run. Around 2:30 a.m., the loop broke. New voice. Same tone. Still me, but distorted. "You were always here. We remember you." I slammed it off, But the words stayed with me, and then the knocking started again. 3 taps, pause, 3 more, a rhythm, like a code. I stayed still, hand on my pistol. Then the voice came through the wall. "Let me in. Tom." I never told anyone my name. Episode 6. The faces in the fire line. I stopped using the front door, started keeping my radio off, covered the mirrors. Anything to avoid seeing or hearing myself where I wasn't supposed to. Frank, one of the senior rangers, called me in for fire patrol that evening. Brush fire had flared up off the eastern ridge. Minor. Routine. But it got me out of the cabin. The drive up was quiet. The smoke was already gone, but the ground was scorched. Ash still floated in the air like black snow. And in the middle of the burn zone, footprints. Not animal. Not mine. Bare feet. Dozens of them. They formed a circle around a single, untouched pine tree, perfectly green, alive, unburned. Frank didn't speak, just stared at it like he'd seen it before. I asked, "What is this?" He didn't answer. Instead, he walked to the tree. Pinned to the bark with a rusted nail was a Polaroid. I took it. It was blurry, but it showed a ranger's cabin, mine, and at the window, a figure wearing my uniform, smiling. That night, I didn't go back. I slept in the truck, engine off, deep in the forest. But just past midnight, I saw a glow between the trees, campfire orange, flickering. I got out, walked slow, and there, in a ring of rocks, was a fire. But it wasn't burning wood. It was burning photographs, hundreds of them, all Polaroids, all of me, in places I'd never been, smiling a smile I don't remember making. Episode 7. What lives in reflection? I burned the Polaroids, all of them, watched my face melt over and over again in the fire until only ash remained. It didn't help. When I finally returned to the cabin, I covered every window, every mirror, but one still caught me off guard. The rearview mirror in my truck. I saw movement in it, a reflection that didn't belong to me. I turned fast. No one there, but in the mirror, he stayed. Same face, same eyes, but something was wrong with the smile. It didn't end. That night, I dreamed of water, a still lake under moonlight, surrounded by trees. I stood on the shore, watching myself drown. No splashing, no sound, just my body sinking slowly, while the version of me on land smiled and waved. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. The floorboards were wet, like lake water had seeped in. I didn't sleep again. Instead, I listened, really listened. And at 3:17 a.m., I heard it. From behind the mirror, I had covered with a sheet, breathing, soft, in sync with mine. Then a whisper. Not long now. I ripped the sheet down. Nothing. But when I looked into the glass, I didn't see myself. I saw the lake, and me, still drowning, still waving. Episode 8. The trail that loops. I stopped trusting the trails. Maps didn't matter anymore. I marked my path with red tape, bright flags hanging from branches. Impossible to miss. And still, somehow, I'd loop back to the same rock, the same tree, sometimes with no memory of turning around. One afternoon, I walked for what should have been 20 minutes, ended up back at Miller's cabin. My own footprints, same boot size, same wear, were already there, leading out from the front steps, but I hadn't been there in 2 days. Frank radioed in that night. His voice was tight, strained. "Stay inside," he said. "Whatever happens, don't follow your own tracks. Then static. Then silence. At 3:17 a.m. I woke up not in my bed, but standing barefoot on the trail. No flashlight, no jacket, no idea how I got there. Just darkness and the sound of footsteps retreating into the woods ahead. I turned, saw my own footprints behind me. One set leading out, one set leading in. I followed the ones leading in. Back to the cabin. The door was wide open. Inside, the lights were on, and sitting at my desk was me, writing in my own logbook. I backed away, didn't make a sound, but he looked up, met my eyes, and smiled. Caught up, finally. Then everything went black. I woke up in bed again. Clothes clean, door locked, logbook closed. But the last entry, it wasn't mine. He remembers now. Episode 9. The ranger that wasn't me. I started seeing myself more often. In reflections. At first. Then in windows. Then walking past me on the trail. Always just far enough that I couldn't chase. But close enough that I knew. It wasn't a trick of the light. I asked HQ for reassignment. No response. I asked Frank if he'd seen anything. He just looked at me like I'd asked the question twice. Then handed me a piece of paper. A missing person report. Filed last week. My name. My face. My ID number. Last seen walking into the forest after sunset. Filed by Frank. He wouldn't explain. Said only, sometimes the forest lets you come back. Sometimes it doesn't. That night, I sat by the fire. Tried to write in the logbook, but my hand didn't move right. My fingers felt too long. My grip, too tight. And when I looked down, the entry had already been written. Day 17. Integration is stabilizing. Host unaware of fragmentation. My pen dropped. I stumbled to the mirror, saw myself, blinking. But when I raised my hand, the reflection was a beat too slow, and its smile came before mine. I smashed the mirror, glass everywhere, but in one shard, the reflection stayed, still smiling, still watching, and then it whispered, "We're almost done." Episode 10, the one that stayed. I left the cabin. I packed a bag, flashlight, food, journal, and followed the creek until the trees stopped looking familiar. No trail, no maps, just instinct, and even that felt borrowed. I walked until the light changed, not sunset, not cloud, just dimmer, like the forest itself didn't want to be seen anymore. Then I saw it. Another ranger station. Same layout, same paint, but wrong. Older, weathered, like it had been standing here for decades. And standing on the porch was a man, wearing my uniform, smoking a cigarette. I don't smoke. He looked up. Same eyes, same scar, same face. He didn't smile, just said, "You took too long," then turned and walked inside. I followed. The cabin was full of photos. Me, in every corner, at every age. Childhood, teenager, ranger school. Pictures I'd never taken. Moments I didn't remember, but they were real. One photo sat on the desk. A group shot 10 park rangers, all identical, all me. I stumbled back, knocked over a chair. When I looked up, the cabin was empty. He was gone. But on the wall, scrawled in something dark, were 5 words. Only one version can remain. Outside, the forest had shifted. The path was gone. The sky, starless. And behind me, the sound of 10 footsteps, marching in sync, getting closer. Episode 11. Split. I ran. Through the trees, branches clawing at my arms. fog curling around my legs like fingers. The footsteps behind me didn't rush. They didn't need to. They were already inside me. When I stopped to catch my breath, I saw a tree marked with carvings, hundreds of them. All names, all mine. Different initials, different dates, but always the same first and last. Some were scratched out, others circled, and beneath them all, burned into the bark, choose. That's when I realized this wasn't a chase. It was a test. I wandered for hours, maybe days. Time stopped working. Every clearing looked the same. Every sound echoed wrong. And always, in the corner of my eye, one of them, one of the others, watching, waiting. At last, I found a lake, still, black, mirror, like on the opposite shore stood a line of figures, tens. All me, each with a small fire burning at their feet. I stepped to the edge of the water, looked down. No reflection, just the words at the bottom. One must drown. The others began to chant, low, rhythmic, a sound like wind dragging over bone. I didn't understand the language, but I understood the meaning. It was time to decide who goes back and who stays. Episode 12. The drowning. The lake didn't move. Not a ripple, not a breath of wind. The fires at the feet of the others still burned, casting flickering shadows across a forest that no longer felt like earth. I stepped into the water, cold, but not wet. It clung to my skin like memory. The others didn't follow, they just watched. Each of them wore my face, but none of them blinked. I waded deeper until the lake reached my chest. Then I heard it, the sound of something vast beneath the surface shifting, waiting. One must drown. The voice wasn't mine. It wasn't theirs. It came from below. I closed my eyes, held my breath, and let go. The water pulled me under, silent, crushing. I opened my eyes. Darkness, but in the black. Shapes moved. Hands, faces, memories not mine. A lifetime lived by a stranger with my smile. And then nothing. I gasped awake on the shore, alone. The lake was still. No fires, no others, just me. But something was off. My reflection in the water blinked first, and it smiled. Too wide, too familiar. The others were gone, but one version remained, and I wasn't sure if it was me. Episode 13. The Watchtower. I made it back to the station, or at least something that looked like it. The trees leaned a little too far. The sky stayed the same color, even as hours passed. But the cabin was there, familiar, waiting. Inside, everything was just as I left it, except for the mirror. It was clean, polished, and this time, my reflection didn't move. It just stood, frozen, smiling. I covered it with a sheet and climbed the old fire tower, the highest point in the area. I needed to see the forest from above. I needed to feel distance. Halfway up, I heard footsteps behind me. Steady. I stopped. So did they. I climbed faster. The wind howled louder the higher I went, carrying voices that bent around my name like bark curling from a dead tree. At the top, I looked out. The forest stretched forever, but in every direction, I saw something impossible. Cabins, dozens of them, all identical, all spaced exactly apart. And outside each one, a figure, standing, watching, waiting. The wind shifted. Whispers turned to words. Which one are you? Which one stayed? Which one is left? I turned to go back down, but the ladder was gone. Only sky below, and the thing in the mirror was climbing up. Episode 14. The one who returned. The thing reached the top of the tower. Same face, same eyes, but no breath, no warmth. It stared at me, and I stared back. Then it spoke. You were the last to forget. That's why you're the last to wake up. I stepped back. There was nowhere to go. Just wind. Just trees. Just the endless forest staring back with mirrored eyes. He raised a hand, pointed at my chest. Take your place. And suddenly, I remembered everything. The first time I arrived. The first time I disappeared. The first time I watched myself walk into the woods and never return. I was never the first. I was always the one that stayed too long. The one the forest copied best. The others had faded. I remained. I screamed, jumped, fell, but hit nothing. No ground, no pain, just silence. And then, the cabin, my bed, the morning sun, birds chirping, coffee warm, radio crackling. Morning, Ranger Tom, beautiful day for a hike. Everything normal, everything right, except the mirror, still covered, still humming. And outside, in the tree line, a man stood, wearing my uniform, waving, smiling, and I smiled back.